Tell me about the surgeries you've had to help with the seizures.
There's sometimes some tissue in your brain that has the seizures in it. So I needed to get 3 brain surgeries to try and get some of the tissue out in my left back part of my brain. They needed to take a little bit of the skull out to get it. I'm glad that my mom gets proud of me in a lot of things.
Why does that make you glad?
I always try to impress my mom and dad to try to get them proud of me.
Are you proud of Haley?
I am, and I'm proud of you even when you don't have to try. You don't have to do anything to impress us. We're proud of you just because you're you. Does it feel that way?
Sometimes with the seizures, no.
Why not?
I have so much trouble with my seizures, and my mom and dad get so worried about them that I try even harder to impress them and try to do things.
What do you want the world to know about you?
I would like the world to know about seizures because some people get really worried about kids with seizures.
Should people get worried?
People should not get worried. They should just stay calm and get the person that knows about the seizures and know how to keep the kid or grown-up safe. I love being close to my mom because I think she's a really good mom and I just love her.
Thanks. I love you too.
What makes your mom a really good mom?
I think she's really caring and tries to keep me safe so I can still have my life. Because sometimes the seizures can even make you die.
What is epilepsy?
Epilepsy is a brain thing that can get some problems in your brain.
What's it like to live with epilepsy?
With living with epilepsy, it can be very difficult because there's so much things you want to do, but you always have to stay safe with it. My mom gets really worried what I like to do. Like rock climbing, she always gets really worried when I do it about my seizures because she always thinks I might fall. But it always has a harness that people can hold on to when they fall, and there's always a cushion on the bottom for if you do fall. I sometimes get annoyed of her being so worried.
Teenagers.
Is she ever sassy towards you?
Yes.
A lot.
But I say, and so even like medical procedures, sometimes she'll put up a fight. I would so much rather have her be sassy and spirited and not lose that feisty, fiery energy than be just a compliant child. Right? I love your sassy spirit. It's gotten you through a lot.
You say that you don't want me to be.
I don't want you to be sassy in a mean way.
Sometimes I get a little too sassy and get in a fight with my mom. A lot of my friends and family say, are you okay? A little too much.
Why is that a little too much?
Because a lot my mom already says, are you okay? Are you okay? And most of the things I like to do.
What would you rather hear than are you okay?
I would still like to say, "Are you okay?" but not as much.
I sometimes say that balancing safety and independence is one of the hardest things that we do with seizures and epilepsy.
And
For
my
sure.
mom gets really overprotective at times.
Yeah, and I think when she was first diagnosed, like we felt like, the seizures were so many, and we felt kind of like life had a pause button, and then we got to a point where we realized like this is just our life and we can't stop living it. And so we've tried to do a better job at giving her more experiences and making sure that she can have as many experiences as possible in a safe way, even if that sometimes means an extra "are you okay?" or a harness.
Are all seizures the same?
They're not all the same. There's all different kinds of seizures that people can have. Sometimes a frozen seizure that you can't move but you can still see and hear. Or sometimes you have a seizure that you can't speak. Sometimes you can have a seizure that you don't hear or see. And there's a lot more out in the world that you think.
Haley has a variety of seizures. So she has what are called sometimes simple partial seizures, where she does retain some consciousness. She has complex partial seizures where she can be semi-conscious, and then she'll have generalized seizures, which are, kind of what you typically see in movies with like tonic-clonic or convulsions, and she's not at all conscious during those.
Can a person always tell when you have a seizure?
No, because sometimes they can be very quick, like the glitches that are very quick that just move like this in the hand or anywhere in the body.
So that's what you call a quick seizure, a glitch?
Yes.
Why do you call it that?
Because I saw a movie that there was a little girl that had glitches that looked like the seizures that are very quick.
What is it like from a parent's perspective when she's experiencing a seizure?
I think seizures are always hard. I know I hear her talk about, how her friends get worried or people get worried around her. And I think a seizure is always a hard thing to see, and it doesn't matter how many you've seen.
Even you.
Yeah, I think there's always a moment of adrenaline rush and panic.
I would like people to say, "Are you okay?" just a few times in the day. And Mom usually says it more than 100 times in the day, it feels like.
Did you just roll your eyes at your mother?
I actually do that a lot.
What do you think when you're rolling your eyes at your mom? Did you just have a glitch?
Yeah.
How'd it feel?
That was a glitch that I just had. And sometimes you don't really notice it. But sometimes it can feel weird anywhere in the body.
Hey, are you okay? I'm just kidding. Did you just roll your eyes at me?
I didn't roll my eyes, but I leaned my head a little bit.
You gave me that, like, come on now look, right?
Yeah. That was funny, actually, though.
So sometimes is it okay, if the situation isn't that serious,
Yeah.
to have a joke and have a laugh?
Yeah.
Does that make you feel better?
Yes.
Why?
When it's not so serious, I sometimes giggle because people sometimes think it's serious, but it's not. I more would prefer for people to say, "Are you okay?" when it's more serious or overwhelming.
What does a more serious or overwhelming situation look like?
More like big seizures that I need to have the emergency medicines.
When she was 3, not long after her initial diagnosis, when we failed the first few medications, she ended up in a medically induced coma for a few weeks to stop seizures that wouldn't stop on their own. and I think I appreciate her awareness and hope that that someday translates to understanding why we're protective or overprotective. And as you said when we were kind of setting up and talking, just that it comes from a place of love.
Do you have a lot of friends?
I have a lot of friends, but it was hard to get to my friends because they do get worried about me with my seizures, and it was hard to explain how the seizures work.
Her gap between her and her peers has widened. I think that Haley started to feel very isolated, and I think she's at a place where she understands her challenges. When she was younger, she didn't think she was different or recognize that she was different, and now I think she sees the differences between her and her peers, and that's hard.
I'm the only one in the family that has the seizures. And I don't really like being the only one in the family.
But you're not the only one in the world, right?
It's different.
It's true. Sorry.
Why is it different?
Because the family is just like people that are related, and from the world, it's all people that are not.
So my first question for you, what do you want to talk about?
I actually don't know.
Do you want to talk about epilepsy and seizure more, or do you want to talk about something random like the ocean?
I do love the ocean and love the sea creatures. It's like a whole nother world that is going crazy about the secrets, and a lot of people just want to know more about the ocean.
There's so much of the ocean we haven't explored, and I often think, are there huge creatures under that sea that we don't know about? Like sea monsters, but they're not really monsters, they're just animals we haven't discovered yet, right?
Like the biggest whale, the bowhead whales that are 60 feet long.
60 feet long? I think that would be bigger than this whole room.
Yeah.
Those whales are gigantic.
Their head is only as big as a school bus, not the whole body.
That is fascinating. What's your favorite fact about the ocean?
I love that it's so secretive and you have a lot to explore, because I love exploring in a lot of places.
Can you tell me about some of the symptoms of her diagnoses that aren't the seizures?
Yeah, she has, some memory issues, although I am so impressed listening to her speak that she's retained and absorbed so much more information than I even realized. So that's been amazing to see. She does, as I mentioned, have global cognitive delays. So although she's 14, I think academically she's operating at a 6 to 8 year old level. And so I know it's hard, right?
What's school like for you?
School can get very, very difficult from how hard it sometimes gets. It's with not understanding the problems like in math or the science or any other subject.
And I like how you said that that's the academic age, because academic doesn't necessarily mean cognitive or social. It's a very complex issue, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, we've seen the gap widen between Haley and her peers in kind of across all areas. Socially, she talks about it can be difficult to make friends because she isn't into the same things that a lot of other 14-year-old girls are into. And so it can be hard to find common ground to connect on.
I was on the beach a week ago, and I looked out into the ocean, and I saw 5 dolphins jumping in and out.
You seen dolphins?
Yep, I saw some dolphins just a week ago.
I really want to see dolphins in real life and swim with them.
Why do you like dolphins so much?
I know that dolphins are one of the animals that that have been with the mermaids so long, and I'm a lot into mermaids. I have like a lot of mermaid tails to swim in the pool.
I don't know a lot about mermaids. Teach me about mermaids.
Mermaids can be so secretive like the sea. And I even watch a lot of shows about mermaids.
Do you believe mermaids are real?
Yes.
What are they like?
Mermaids are like half people with the fish tails. I really like the show Octonauts. It's in a lot of other cartoons that are more for smaller, more kids.
I think they're for anyone who enjoys them, right?
A lot of my other friends, they say they're for little kids.
How do you feel when they say that the cartoons you like are for little kids?
I don't really feel so good because they say it, but I really like them.
Do you wish people would just let you enjoy what you enjoy?
Yeah.
Why do you like those shows?
Well, one for Octonauts, it's mostly like learning more about the sea, and I really like sea creatures, and I learn more about them. And sometimes I get so interested in them that I even do a little research.
If somebody wants to befriend a mermaid, what should they do?
They would, I think you should just make a friend of a mermaid, just how people make regular friends, like how they do it on land.
What's the best way to do that on land?
Like saying hi, what do you like?
What do you like?
I really like mermaids, and I love doing a lot of art and watching TV a lot, and just culling with my service dog Sophie. Sophie is a Border Collie mix, and she's a very fluffy one, and she's a very kind dog.
What's it like to have a service dog?
It a lot when they're home. They're just like regular dogs and need the same care, or feeding, petting, and going to the bathroom.
What do you think is the absolute best thing about dogs?
I think the best thing about dogs is to have them, and when you're nervous or sad, just go to them and snuggle with them, and it can help calm you down. Sophie helps with calming me down in a seizure. She sometimes can sense a seizure before it happens. Like the school year that just ended, I had a class that was theater arts and was doing something while I was standing up, and Sophie sensed a seizure and brought me back down to my desk.
So Haley has a mutation of her SCN2A gene, which is, there are only a couple hundred people in the world that have identified mutations of that gene. And her diagnosis is similar to Dravet syndrome, because Dravet syndrome happens in the SCN1A gene, and there are more people with it, so it's been studied a little bit more. So it's Dravet-like is her official diagnosis.
Always, big seizures can be very overwhelming and very nervous. I sometimes get scared in them. But I always tried to stay calm. When I was younger, I couldn't really stay calm and would do like a really heavy breathing, and that would even make the seizures worse.
What's the best thing about having a service dog?
Having a service dog, the service dog can just mostly go anywhere with you. I really like that because I love Sophie, and I love how cuddly she is.
What is your biggest goal for the future?
My strongest the goal that I'm trying to get is not to have any more seizures.
Why is that your goal?
Because I don't want my seizures anymore, so I can do what I would like to do without the seizures bothering me. Like some of my other friends. Sometimes I forget how the life sometimes needs to be, and just get carried away from it.
What do you mean?
I don't really like how the life that I have right now with the seizures, because they can be so tough that I sometimes wish I had a different life without it. And sometimes I just get carried away with it.
Do you feel like you're missing out on a lot of things?
Yeah.
And friendships and...
Yeah.
We talked about mermaids. What about unicorns?
I love unicorns and I believe in them. They always hide it in the biggest forests, I think.
Do you like to believe in magic?
Yeah.
Why?
I've just been into magic a lot from my stories that have magic in them. One of my favorite series of books that I like is Upside Down Magic. I mostly have all the books of them.
What's that about? I haven't heard of it.
It's like a girl that's like, I think 11 or 12 that has some trouble with her magic, and a few of her friends that do, and has like a class that tries to help with her magic. And there was a school that she really wanted to go to. Ooh, and I forget what it was called, but Upside Down Magic is a really good series of books.
Do you sometimes feel like you can relate to that? Because you're in your class and you sometimes have your seizures and everybody tries to help you?
Yeah.
What's it like to find a book that you can connect to like that?
I think it's a little tricky to find books that you really like and that you connect to.
Is that because there's not a lot of books about epilepsy that you can relate to?
Yeah. There's only one book that I have that is a girl that has epilepsy.
Is that part of why you wanted to do this interview today? So that other people out there could know they're not alone if they have seizures?
Sometimes some people do feel like they're alone on their seizures, like I do sometimes, and it's just hard to forget about it.
Is there one particular type of seizure that is more difficult than the others?
The one I think is one of the hardest is the one that you can't speak.
Why is that the hardest?
Because my mom and my dad always wants me to tell them if it's getting better or worse or what I need. And when I can't talk, it's really hard to tell them. So I always have my phone with me here to type down what I want to say.
So when you're having a seizure where you can't talk, you're still able to type?
Yes.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you have that capability so you can still communicate.
It is hard to think of how it's spelled, but it's easier than trying to talk. I sometimes forget things because seizures can sometimes bother with your memory.
So even after the seizure is over, it impacts your memory?
Yes.
What does that feel like?
I get really annoyed with it and don't like it. And sometimes people will say, "Do you remember that?" And I say, "No, was that a seizure or not?" in my head. And now, since I had the brain surgery and a new liquid medicine, my memory has been getting a whole lot better, but still in big seizures I sometimes forget.
We already know that mermaids exist, unicorns, of course, but what about leprechauns?
Leprechauns existed because I actually last St. Patrick's Day got on camera.
You got one? What did it look like?
It was really small and it could fly.
Did the leprechaun you saw take anything from you?
I put 1 penny here by it because I could only find one, and it took the penny.
I noticed that you had a little glitch and you just continue talking. Do
Yeah.
glitches ever mess up the conversation and make it hard to remember what you were thinking about? Or can you just keep on going?
Sometimes if it is a stronger glitch, it can get tricky. Yeah, but sometimes, mostly, no.
So would it be best for me to kind of read your energy and notice that you kept on talking about the leprechauns so I know it's not a big deal and I can ignore the glitch?
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, can leprechauns ever be aggressive?
They can be on how much they take.
So they can take like all of your money?
They can.
So it might be a good idea to keep a vault where you can keep all of your stuff. So can a leprechaun crack a vault though? Oh my gosh.
I don't think so.
Okay.
They are clever, but if it's a really tricky one from the best puzzle guys, I don't think they can.
Haley has multiple areas in the left side of her brain where seizures are coming from, and so we initially went in to take out what's called a resection, just remove one particular area called a dysplasia where the brain didn't quite form correctly. And so we tried that first, and it didn't seem to help or make any difference in her seizure activity. So we went back in with a second surgery where they put in what they call grids and strips, and it's basically an internal EEG to monitor seizure activity inside the brain, and that helped them locate other areas that were more active and remove another area. So we went in for a third surgery, which was another resection to take out another area.
And then been needing to be in the hospital for almost a month.
Yep, we did 3 brain surgeries in the month of October 2019, just in that month.
And I always felt like I would miss Halloween, and Halloween is my second favorite holiday.
But we did not miss Halloween. We made it trick-or-treating, and you wore a wig because you didn't want anyone to see your scar, right?
At first.
Are you happy that you got the brain surgery?
When I had it at first, no, but now that I had time for my brain to heal and my hair to grow out again, and I'm more happy now because it is working. When I first had the brain surgery, my doctor shaved most of my head where she needed to open it with my hair off. And I was very angry at that.
We first started talking about surgery. I think, the textbooks say if you fail 3 medications, essentially, you're not going to find your answer in medication. I don't think that we were willing to give up on it yet at that point. And so we have literally exhausted every medication on the market in the US.
That we can do.
Yep, we've participated in some trials. We were early advocates of cannabis when that first came out for CBD for epilepsy. And we kind of exhausted all of our other options.
Did the brain surgeries help at all?
They did help after a little bit because some of the tissue from the seizures was taken out. And now my seizures are a lot better, and I have a special liquid medicine called Parental that really helps too.
Prior to surgeries, Haley was having 50 to even 100 seizures a day sometimes. The brain surgeries brought us down to about 10 to 15 seizures daily. And with the healing over time, and then the addition of another new medication, we've been able to. Yep, the Fintepla. We've been able to bring them down to. She has about an average of probably 10 seizures a week.
And you're not including glitches in that frequency amount?
Not really.
Not
No.
really.
Is a glitch a seizure technically?
It is. Yep, it's called a myoclonic seizure.
That's why.
So when there's so many seizures, you start to prioritize the ones that are a bit more serious?
Correct. Yep. And the myoclonic seizures, if she's standing or walking, sometimes they can be strong enough to knock her off her feet or make her fall down. But for the most part, if she's sitting, she's supported and safe.
I sometimes, when I have a big cluster, it's a rougher day. And sometimes when I have one big seizure at night, more calm.
What is a cluster?
A cluster of seizures is more and more seizures coming after another. And sometimes the clusters can last for a while. Well, sometimes for the longest I had clusters was an hour and a half mostly.
What is it like when you have clusters of seizures for an hour and a half?
Clusters get me really upset that I can't do what I want and need to miss out. And my one-on-one nurse is always with me at school, and she's really strong on it, and sometimes I have seizures when I'm standing up, and she always grabs me to try and keep me safe.
Yep. I used to joke that my life was like a zombie. I just walked around with my arms out to catch her as she was going down.
And that's one of the things that I would think overprotective.
Overprotective.
Do you understand it though?
Yeah.
Do you think, so I hear you talk about how you don't like to go to the hospital, right? And if you fall down
No one does.
Right, but if you fall down during a seizure and hit your head, what do you have to do?
I
Sometimes have to go to the hospital?
sometimes.
Are there things that trigger your seizures?
Flashing lights that can trigger seizures, a lot of sugar, you're getting very excited, getting more angry, yeah, and a few other things that I can't think of right now, but more things that can trigger the seizures. I really hope that my seizures go away when I'm older.
Is there any possibility of them becoming less frequent from where they are now?
Sometimes my mom doesn't think so.
Historically, this disease is known to be progressive, but I think that we are very lucky to live in a time where we have constant medical development. Even the new medication that she's on was just FDA approved about a year ago. So, keeping up with new treatments and new medications as they come out, I think that there's always hope. I think it's the one thing that you can never lose.
Is it sometimes difficult to communicate a realistic expectation and a positive one at the same time?
Absolutely, yes.
You did a really good job at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to accept what our life is and live the life we have, but that doesn't mean that we can't, keep hope for a different outcome in the future.
Tell me about your YouTube channel.
I just like to do fun things with my friends or even animals and try to take little videos so people can see what I just did and think they might want to do it. I have a YouTube channel and I always try to do funny videos.
So we're going to put your YouTube channel in the description below. Why don't you convince everybody to go and subscribe to you?
And if you like the videos on my channel, don't forget to give a thumbs up and subscribe.
Doesn't cost anything. That was a really good plug for your channel. Before we end this interview, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Anyone that has seizures, just come and don't worry about it. Your life will come.
Thank you.